All right, I believe we're live. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope it's going well. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been a little while since we've been able to meet and have our Tox Talks discussion of late. So we are thrilled to do another one today for you. So for those who are new to the program, who haven't seen us before, let me introduce us all. So my name is Alex. I'm with the Washington Poison Center. I am co-hosting with Fiorella with the Virginia Poison Center. And we are so excited to be joined by Dr. Lopez today of the Georgia Poison Center. Dr. Lopez, how you doing today?
Hey, good morning, you guys.
Good morning.
Perfect. Very good. Tech is working. Everyone can see and hear. So I wager that by clicking into this stream, you probably know what we're talking about because the title was right there. But if you don't, let me tell you, we're going to talk about foreign body ingestions, or you thought pills were tough to swallow. So that can mean a whole bunch of stuff, and we're going to get into that. But before we do, let's kind of start at the beginning. So we are all members. We all work for various poison centers. So for those who don't know of what the Poison Center is, let's tell you now. Our bread and butter is our national telephone helpline. It is toll-free. You can call anytime, 2 a.m., 2 p.m., someone's going to answer. You can call just to get information. You can call in an active emergency. And as we're going to show you today, you can call if you think someone has eaten something they shouldn't or ingested something they shouldn't. So we get calls about all sorts of stuff. We get calls largely about little kids getting into stuff, but adults get into stuff too. So let's dive in. So Dr. Lopez, what is the experience in Georgia with foreign body ingestions?
Yeah, welcome everyone, and I'm real excited to talk about some of our experiences here in Georgia. They probably mirror a lot of things that are going on across the country, but as a lot of you know, we're quite busy down here in the South, one of the more busier centers. And as I was looking at data, and as I was preparing for this little chat, I was surprised to see the volume. So if you look at our data from 2015 to now, we've got documented over 14,000 exposures to foreign bodies. And that even best, some of you may know we're the animal bite center here in our state, you know, where we handle rabies calls, and that even surpasses rabies volume. You know, so I didn't expect that. And I had always wondered, you know, why did people even call us about foreign body ingestions? And as you see, they're doing it obviously because it's a problem. Now, when you look at over 14,000 cases since 2015, you could probably guess which population gets called about the most. And I'm sure our data kind of mirrors what goes on in your city or your state, but over 10,000 of those exposures happen in children under the age of 5. So that's nearly 3/4 of all our cases that come from parents of young children. So age less than 5, we all have kids or had kids and that were less than 5 at one point. And yeah, we know why they get into these kind of things. Then we also looked at what percentage of these calls were managed at home. And so it shouldn't surprise you that over 80% of those calls, probably a little bit lower than what we might expect with unintentional accidental poisons, where the number's probably more closer to 90%, you know, we could keep at home. This is just hovering around 80% of the cases are managed at home. So obviously a little bit more high acuity with these foreign bodies. And when you look at the range of things people get into, this was another surprise to me in terms of our top 5. And if you look at your data, I'm sure you'll see some similarities, but for example, at the very top, shouldn't surprise us all, right, that toys, and you hear the warnings every time, you know, one of the fast food chains has a toy in their, you know, happy go lucky meal or whatever. And so toys and little things like that are most frequently ingested by young children. I was surprised at number 2, and I didn't realize based on the way we code things that it was number 2, but silica gel was like number 2.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I was a little surprised for it, and somewhere in the top 5, and it shouldn't surprise us, but there it is. We deal with crap all the time, and sure enough, crap is in the top 5, right?
There you go.
Yeah, it's actually number 4, and above that are all the battery ingestions that we get. You know, and I'm not talking about the disc batteries because they're further down on the list. But to round out the top 5, the more obvious ones that probably we all think about when we consider foreign body ingestions, it's coins, right? So the top 5 are not surprising to any of us on this call, and those people who are tuning in who don't know a lot about our poison center, our National Poison Center system, those are the kind of things that you are calling us about. So that's just a brief snapshot of what goes on here at our center, Alex.
Perfect. Thank you for giving that overview. And it shouldn't be any surprise at all to anyone who interacts with kids that, of course, most of the calls for foreign body ingestions are about kids, because that's how they explore their world. Causes a great deal of stress to their guardians. All right, so let's get to some of the nitty gritty. I know you have some more unique stories for us about some of the more obscure ingestion cases that Georgia has faced over the past 2 years. So what do you have for us?
Yeah, and this is I reached into our vaults, and asked our illustrious poison specialist group, what was in their arsenal, what was hidden in their closets, and I have 3 very cool stories to share with you. And I'm also going to do a little picture sharing as well, just so that we can get sort of a reference. But in addition to those top 5, and those are the ones that all of us get called about, but I think I might surprise a couple people with a couple of the more recent ones that we got. And imagine a scenario where you've got your child playing in the front or backyard, and it was the backyard in this case for this particular family, and the mom had been concerned that the child had swallowed and bitten off a piece of a blade of grass. Now, I mean, all of us probably sit back and say, a blade of grass? What's Gaylord? What? No wonder you guys are so busy if you're telling people to call you about a blade of grass. Well, what was surprising about this blade of grass, that it wasn't a blade of grass at all. In fact, as you'll see in my next image that I'll share, rather than a blade of grass, the kid bit into a little rough green snake. And I was a little surprised that was what the kid actually ingested or bit. And of course, when you think about foreign bodies, I think I don't think there's a single one of us who would put a snake as a foreign body that a kid would eat. But as you can see in this image, that snake is rather small. And you could imagine a child who is unknowing. And let's face it, we've heard the stories of kids picking up snakes or trying to play with them in a garage setting. It's not unusual that they are unknowing and unafraid. So when the mom was thinking it was a blade of grass and then to her surprise it was a snake, you can well imagine her panic. So,
Lopez, do you have the share button? Because we can't see the picture of it.
Oh, you can't? Okay, hold on. Let me see.
Is this of the actual snake?
This was what we. This is what we ended up figuring out what the case was. So now. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So here we go.
Oh, it does look a little bit like
yes,
grass.
Yeah, exactly. If you think about a kid picking this up and a mom not thinking it's going to be a snake, and that's why she initially thought it was the blade of grass, and then to her surprise, oh my gosh, it was something else. You can well imagine her issues with making sure her kid was going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was a case that one of our specialists handled, and of course she was quite surprised that that was that kid got. So quite shocking. The next case, if you thought that was a little shocking, the next case that we had just happened recently. In fact, it was presented at NAC virtually last year by one of our specialists. And it was a case involving a kid getting into the contents of a shotgun shell. Now, we probably have had people who've ingested, bullets. And if you think about a shotgun shell, you'd be hard pressed to, if you put 10 people in a room and you ask them, what might be the contents of a shotgun shell, you probably won't get the right answer, right? And then when you looked it up and Googled it, you probably would realize, oh yeah, that makes sense. So as I share my screen again, this was a case we presented just recently. And so let's see if I can see it here. There, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So those pellets contain lead, of course. And it was a 5-year-old and her sibling, or his sibling, that allegedly got into this type of product. And the kid the two kids were subsequently sent in and x-rayed. And fortunately for one of the kids, the 7-year-old did not have any evidence of these pellets in their gut. However, the 5-year-old who hogged it all had over 60 pellets in their gut. And of course, what are we thinking about when we've got lead pellets? We're thinking about, lead poisoning, right?
And no safe amount.
Yeah. So, we were aggressive in trying to get this stuff out of their system. We had recommended whole bowel irrigation of that particular case. We ended up doing blood lead levels, and the first blood level that we were able to measure was one that was over 31. And so that's usually a trigger point where, you start thinking about, do I treat or not? That particular ingestion happened of all days, Thanksgiving Thursday, a couple of years ago. So if the kid really just didn't want turkey, they should have said something instead of the kid going.
I know, poor thing. Did he recover?
Yeah. So we were managing that case up through about a month and a half, where we monitored blood lead levels. And fortunately, the next, with therapy and with defecation, because this kid was pooping out pellets over the course of a month, the blood lead dropped to around 10 or 11. And so fortunately, the kid did fine, but on x-ray, there was still evidence of pellets. The last visit, there was still evidence of pellets. And in fact, as the kid was being treated on an outpatient basis, re-x-ray showed there were still, a dozen or so pellets left in their gut, and they were still trying to poop it out. But by that time, we were looking at blood lead levels that were significantly lower. So a good outcome, but a surprise type ingestion. It's probably not one of the ones, much like my snake, not one that a lot of us handle in our poison life. And then lastly, this is the case that was shared with me near the beginning of my career, and I've been blessed with being at Georgia for a couple of minutes. And so imagine a situation where a mom is calling us about her kid getting into a condom. And so when you think about a balloon or a condom, obviously, like with any foreign body, you're worried about, airway obstruction. And so when the mom said got into a condom and bit or got into the contents, she obviously needed reassurance. And what we and of course we all know what we're talking about here. Hold on one second. So when you're talking about this type of call, you're concerned making sure that airways protected and the kid was breathing, and then of course she was worried about the contents, and we had reminded her that it was not anything that we really needed to worry about. But then the problem came, guys, when we ended up doing a follow-up a couple days later, checking on the kid. Hi, this is Gaylord. I'm calling from the Poison Center. We're just checking on little Johnny to see how he's doing. And of course, it was the father who answered the phone. And so the father's like, Johnny, who called about Johnny? Oh, your wife called about Johnny. Well, what did Johnny get into? And I know some of you are already wondering, oh gosh, I know where this is going, but just hold on for the punchline. So we said, oh, your wife called, said that your kid got into a used condom, and we were just checking to see if he was okay. And the father said, when was this? Oh, it was, it was on Saturday. And then the father said, that's funny. I wasn't home this weekend. And then of course we said, if you need to call us in the future, give us a call back. We hung up the phone right away. And we, tried to get out of the domestic dispute at that point. So here we are thinking, a foreign body ingestion. We've had, balloons ingested before. We thought we'd handle it the same way. But little did we know there might have been some infidelity. And that's not our job, right? So we figured we'd get out of that call just as soon as we possibly could. So again, another one of those unusual bits that all of us, I'm sure all of us have these kind of stories floating around. But of course, those two or three that I just shared were some of the more unusual cases that we've had here at our center.
That's quite a sticky situation, literally. Wow. Oh, well, I'm glad you handled it quite well. And, the child was fine. So something like that, for example, a condom, for the most part, is fine. It just, like most things would just pass. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. And as was evident with, the pellets, the kid was actively, defecating these pellets, maybe 2 or 3 at a time. I'd as a parent, you want to make sure that stuff gets out. And imagine the job that you have to put on the parent of straining, so that became quite an ordeal. But when you're dealing with, 50, 60 of those pellets, it's going to be a while before those pellets all come out, because they didn't all come out during whole bowel irrigation or cleansing of the stomach. They still remain trapped in there. So it's just a matter of waiting for that stuff to come out.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm a little speechless. Are you, Alex?
Yeah, that's an alarming one. It does highlight, I think, some important considerations. And the first that's apparent to me is that, like you said, Dr. Lopez, one of the biggest concerns with foreign body ingestions is choking. It's blocking the airway. But a secondary concern is, well, once it's in there, what's it going to do? And if it's something like lead, that can obviously be of great concern. So even if someone gets into something, if someone ingests something, ingest a foreign body, and they aren't choking, it's still worth a call to the Poison Center, even if you think it's a blade of grass, because it could be a snake.
Exactly. Go figure. And you're right. We all know that the kind of outcomes that could happen if these kind of objects get lodged or leak or whatever, the type of the product it is. And these are quite dangerous issues. And sure, we could talk about making sure things are up and away and the kind of messages that we always talk about. When you're talking about foreign bodies, however, these are just not things that you you're going to expect someone to get into. I mean, imagine chewing through a shotgun shell. You just don't think that that would ever be a possibility. Picking up a live snake. Those of us who are adults, we know, and at least for me, if I see snake, I'm running the other way. You know, we're not going there. And then obviously, you know, when you've got unusual items and look, with the curiosity factor and the mobility factor you mentioned, Alex, a little bit earlier, these are the kind of things we just have to be ready for as a parent, and having that 800 number is certainly key to getting that patient properly assessed and properly treated.
Absolutely. There's that number again at the bottom of the screen here, 800-222-1222. An action item for all of our viewers is to put that in your phone, put it on your fridge, tattoo it on your arm, whatever works best for you so you can access it should you ever need. Better to have it, not need it, than the other way around. Now we're close to wrapping up today, so let's just go over a couple just additional safety steps. Dr. Lopez mentioned safe storage, which is our, one of the key messages of all poison centers. Obviously, that doesn't apply to all things. You're not going to run around storing all snakes for that kind of prevention. It would apply to something like shotgun cells, a gun safety, and all that. Maybe wouldn't have thought of keeping condoms securely locked up, but that could be an option to help prevent that kind of exposure.
Definitely proper disposal. I would.
Exactly.
That would be key. Absolutely.
Now, in case anyone is curious, I think it can be helpful to sort of tease apart. For these kind of cases, when would you recommend that someone calls a poison center versus calling 911 directly?
Yeah, obviously, calling instead of just waiting and doing nothing and hoping for the best is going to be the best thing to do, whether it's call the poison center or call 911. Certainly someone who's without airway, I know 911 is probably better equipped. But when you're concerned about the potential for a problem or what if kind of situations, we would love for the poison center to be the first number that someone calls. So obviously exposing our number and making sure you have that on the ready, that's going to be really important in these type of cases.
Absolutely. Now, for folks who are curious, this is the national number, and it'll route you to your local poison center based on your area code. No problem if you get rerouted to another one, though. They can do all poison centers can do the same things. They're going to give you the same advice, walk you through the same safety steps. And I think something that's important for folks to keep in mind now is we're still dealing with a pandemic. COVID-19 is still very present. It's ideal if we can minimize the impact on 911, on emergency rooms. And if you can get treatment from home without having to expose yourself or expose others, that is absolutely ideal. So please, please, please keep us in mind during your next foreign body ingestion exposure. Now, is there anything else either of you would like to add for folks viewing before we wrap up for the day?
Well, I guess just, I guess for parents, I mean, one of the things is perhaps we're just not aware of what, again, we're not going to know if obviously a kid is going to eat a snake or bite a snake, but, things like button batteries and things that like, oh, this is actually an issue. And let's say you don't store them properly as well. The key is proper storage. If the batteries compartment is loose, make sure it's not. Make sure you put them away. But I guess one of the things that I was wondering, as well as we'll have Dr. Lopez here, I read about cases that some of the toys that expand with water. And I just thought it was really, really interesting. And I don't know if I'm assuming they still sell them, let's say, online, but just to like to know more about it. And how can this be an issue,
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that, you can get in the dollar stores, you can get online, and the expandable ones, just like any foreign body, you worry about issues like airway blockage, especially as it may, cause a little blockage in the esophagus. And so parents really have to be careful. I mean, although we talk about storage, They just have to be more cognizant about their environment because look, a foreign body could be something that is bitten off of something that is a much larger item. You mentioned, car keys, with batteries, but what about also greeting cards with little batteries, people with hearing aids, even just other toys with single, double, and triple A batteries. We know that happens, but a parent is so unsuspecting. They just have to realize that kids are curious and they'll put just about anything in their mouth. So whether it's something that's expandable, whether it's a lead pellet, whether it's a piece of grass or dirt or a rock, these are the kind of things that go in kids' mouths. Unfortunately, it's all part of a kid being a kid.
Yes. Good. Thank you. Yeah. So that's so important. Give us a call. You have the number there. Put it somewhere visible. Every poison center can send you stickers, magnets, things so you can have the number handy. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. I learned something today. I never thought about some of the ingestion cases that Dr. Lopez walked us through. So I hope you all learned something as well. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions and give us a call should you ever need. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.